If you're reacting to everything you eat, touch, and smell, and your life has become a minefield of mysterious symptoms from hives, digestive issues, relentless fatigue, brain fog, dizziness, heart palpitation, and shortness of breath, you've probably been told that your body is broken. And if this sounds like you, let me know in the comments below, what is your most frustrating symptom? Because I want you to know that you're not alone. You've probably been led to believe that you have a defective or a compromised immune system, and that your system, has turned against you. And maybe you've been told that you just have to live with it. But what if your body isn't broken in the way that you think? And what if the core programming is actually doing its job a little too well? So understanding this idea is the first step to getting your life back. So, for years, if you've been on this frustrating journey and you've been to doctor, specialist to specialist, and you've had endless tests, and you've only been told that everything looks normal, and maybe you've been given the diagnosis like mast cell activation syndrome, but we're left with the feeling that your body is fundamentally flawed, a chaotic system that you just can't trust anymore, and you start to feel like you're at war with your own biology. And, every meal that you have is a risk, potentially leading to digestive issues, tremors, nausea, bloating, and every new environment that you go in is a threat. Now, the common narrative that we're fed is that our mast cells, which is a key part of the immune system, is defective, just firing off for no good reason. And we're told to just shrink our world and to avoid more and more things and live in a constant state of fear. But, what if that's not the whole story? What if your mast cells aren't the villains? What if they're actually doing their job just, way too effectively? So, really understanding what's going on, you need to appreciate your mast cells. Think of them as the elite border guards of your immune system. And they're strategically placed all throughout your body, everywhere your body meets the outside world. So your skin, your gut, your lungs, and even your surrounding nerves. And their job is to protect you. When they detect a threat, like a parasite or, a dangerous toxin, they release these chemical mediators like histamine. And this is really done to neutralize the danger and call for backup. So this is a brilliant life-saving process. And the problem in a condition like mast cell activation is, it isn't that the system is broken. It's that it's become, pathologically overreactive. So these highly trained guards have become hypervigilant, and they've started seeing threats everywhere. And the food you ate for lunch, the perfume in the air, a stressful thought, suddenly all these, they're treated like enemy invaders, triggering a full-blown defensive reaction. So, a condition like MCAS is very real. So let me be clear, this is not all in your head. The flushing, the hives, the gut-wrenching, digestive issues, debilitating fatigue, brain fog, startling heart palpitations, and the tremors, it's all a psychological reality. And the question isn't if it's real. The question is why. Why has your body's perfect protectors become so overreactive? So the answer is complex and multifactorial, involving genetics, environmental triggers, and chronic infections. But one powerful and overlooked piece of the puzzle is the accumulation of stress. So a helpful way to visualize this is, I call it the threat bucket. So imagine your body has a bucket and every stressor gets added to it. And this can be physical stress like an illness, gut infection, chemical exposure, mold exposure. It could be emotional stress from a high-pressure job, a toxic relationship, or even a stressful move. So when your bucket is half full, your system, it can handle it. But when it overflows from the cumulative load, it could create the perfect storm for your entire system to shift into high alert. And when the alarm bells start to ring, they don't stop. Your body is now in survival mode. And this is where your nervous system comes in. This, a constantly overflowing stress bucket can teach your nervous system to live in a state of basically fight or flight. And this chronic survival mode sends continuous danger signals all throughout your body. And, who's listening intently to those signals? Your mast cells. And there is a direct communication highway between your nerves and the mast cells. And they are functionally intertwined. And when the nervous system is screaming danger, your mast cells, being the good soldiers that they are, they respond by lowering their trigger threshold. And they become really, I like to call them trigger happy, ready to degranulate at the slightest threat. This doesn't mean MCAS is purely a nervous system disorder. It's an immune condition also, but the nervous system and immune system are deeply interconnected, and the nervous system dysregulation is a powerful contributing factor that can create this whole cycle of reactivity. So it's the background noise on threat that keeps your mast cell soldiers on hair trigger. And the key that once you balance your limbic system and your nervous system, which can be achieved through approaches like cry-centered brain rewiring, the physical symptoms disappear. So stories from people who have recovered from similar chronic conditions often highlight this shift in understanding. For example, I had a client who come into my program after years of reacting to everything: food, smells, environment, stress, to the point where she felt like her world was shrinking smaller and smaller. And she told me that she was terrified of eating because she only had a couple of safe foods. And she couldn't, go to restaurants. She couldn't travel. She was afraid to be away from her house because, she was afraid, how her body would react. And her turning point wasn't a new diet, a new supplement. It was the moment that she decided to retrain her brain no matter what. She said, I'm going to retrain my brain no matter what because I refuse to spend the rest of my life like this. So when she started learning to send signals of safety to her nervous system instead of fear and panic and hypervigilance, her symptom intensity began to drop. And over time, her reactivity calmed down dramatically. And she began reintroducing foods again, going out in public without spiraling, and even told me one day that she felt like herself and that she finally got her life back. So her story isn't magic or luck. It's what happens when the nervous system begins to shift out of survival mode and your body stops, perceiving danger everywhere and seeing everything as a threat. So if this idea of threat bucket or an oversensitized alarm system is resonating with you, I'd like for you to take a moment to share in the comments exactly what is your biggest aha moment been so far. So your story is so important, and reading it might just help someone else, feel a little less alone in their own journey, because I know I live this and I know how isolating that this journey can be. So if this message speaks to you and you're looking for extra support, I want you to know that I've literally helped hundreds of people with mast cell activation syndrome, CFS, POTS, food and chemical sensitivities, mold illness, and we have so many testimonials of people sharing their success stories, and I really just want to give you guys some hope. For example, I had a lady that joined Katie. She was dealing with debilitating symptoms that left her bedbound for years. But within just a few weeks of implementing the program, she was able to start driving again and even eat at her favorite restaurants. And she was able to do this without any symptoms whatsoever. And if you prefer to ditch the overwhelm and you just want to dive deep, I'd love to invite you to check out my recovery program. It's a clear step-by-step system that walks you through exactly what to do each and every single day so that you know exactly what you need to be focusing on, so that you can confidently take manageable and intentional steps towards breaking free from those chronic symptoms. And we help you to overcome the old negative thought patterns that might be keeping you stuck. And you may not even realize that it's keeping you stuck. So if you value your time and you want a healing path that's strategic and effective, and you're ready to calm down the chronic stress response and lower your symptoms and start bringing things back into your life that maybe you've been forced to avoid, like going out to eat without a reaction, returning back to work without, crippling brain fog and fatigue, and exercising without a crash, then this is for you. So when you join, you're going to get 6 months inside our private Facebook group. This is where you can ask unlimited questions. You're going to get answers from me and my team. You're going to get a customized coaching plan, daily rewiring tools, so you know exactly what to do. So for the first time in 6 months, I've just reduced the cost to make it a little more accessible to people so that, I can help as many people as possible. So if you're tired of doing this alone and you're ready to see real lasting change, I just want to encourage you I'll put the link in the description where you can book a free discovery call. And on that call, we're going to create a personalized plan to, specifically for your unique symptoms and situation, to see if the program is the right fit. Because really right now, spots are really limited because we want to keep the group small to give you personalized attention. So if you're ready to reclaim your life, I invite you to check it out. So what about the low histamine diet? So if you have mast cell activation, you've almost certainly been told to follow one. But honestly, I tried it and it did not work for me. The only thing that works for me was retraining my brain through daily regulation and responding well to symptoms, because your brain needs safety, and responding well is a byproduct of safety. And you really need to retrain the brain so that it stops overreacting to everything as if it's life-threatening. So this for me was the key point in my healing journey. So, if you want to, you could think of it like this. You can try to manage symptoms with diet. It does help empty the threat bucket, but it doesn't fix the leaks or stop the stressors from pouring in. So the long-term goal should never be to live on a handful of safe foods, especially forever. The goal is to address why the bucket is overflowing in the first place, so that you can eventually expand your diet and your life by teaching the brain that it's safe again. And this same goes for supplements. Mast cell stabilizers like quercetin, stinging nettle, and vitamin C. They seem like a good idea, but they're often just managing the downstream effects of a system that's fundamentally in overdrive. And they don't solve the root problem. And I thought about there's really not a supplement that can balance the nervous system. So this brings us to the most important part, the true first step towards getting more control over your symptoms and reclaiming your life. It isn't a new diet or, a new supplement or a new lab test. It's about a mindset shift, retraining the brain. It's to shift from thinking that, my body is broken and it's attacking me, to understanding that my body's doing its best to protect me and having compassion for your body. But its alarm system is just a little too high right now. But the shift, that you have about your mindset and the brain retraining over time will calm down that response. And you can stop being at war with your body, and you can start becoming its ally. And this goal is no longer just to silence your symptoms, but to understand that their message. And the new mission becomes teaching your body and your nervous system that it can feel safe again. And how you do that is by gently sending signals of safety throughout the day. And this isn't about pretending that you're not in pain or fatigue, or it's about changing the response you have to pain. So when a symptom like sudden heart palpitation, dizziness, shortness of breath, when that arises, instead of spiraling into panic, which is another massive danger signal for your system, you could just learn to pause and breathe and consciously tell yourself that this is just my nervous system. I'm okay. I'm safe. And this might feel impossible at first, but with practice, it begins to recalibrate your nervous system's response, and it lowers that stress response over time. And then the nervous system balances out eventually. And it often involves a gentle shift in focus too. It's a common pattern in recovery stories for people to have spent years scanning their body for symptoms, which only enforces the illness pathways in the brain. A key part of recovery is consciously redirecting the brain towards wellness and positive expectation. So this nervous system work is the missing piece of the puzzle for many, and it addresses the underlying state of the dysregulation that can keep that cycle of reactivity just going. So the truth about why you're reacting to everything is not that you're broken, it's that your body's intelligent protective system is stuck in overdrive and influenced by a complex mix of factors, including an overflowing stress bucket and a dysregulated nervous system. And your mast cells are not the villains. They are loyal soldiers responding to perceived state of emergency. And the path to feeling better begins the moment you stop fighting and start supporting your body. And it begins with understanding the true nature of the problem and seeing your symptoms not as a character flaw, but as a signal, a desperate call for safety. And it's a call that you actually have the power to answer. So yeah, if you want to learn more about practical steps for regulating your nervous system and teaching your body safety, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. In my next video, I'm going to dive into 3 simple techniques that you can start using today. And if you know somebody who feels broken, who is lost in a sea of symptoms, please share this video with them. You never know whose life it might change. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and have a blessed day.